Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And, it's fucking Halloween time, y'all!
Woo!
Woo! It's the best time of the year.
That's right.
It's October. This is the first episode of October. So you know that we're doing horror all month long. I mean, we do horror all year long.
But this is now a whole month of it instead of maybe one episode a month.
So now we have a whole excuse.
Woo! It's the best holiday. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
That's right. It's not Christmas, y'all.
That's
right.
right.
It's Halloween. It's this time of year. Welcome back to the show, of course, as always, after that boisterous opening.
Yes.
It's good to have y'all back with us. Dear, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a long work week. I'm looking forward to the weekend. But I'm also just really excited to be here, chatting with these lovely folks. You all look wonderful tonight. Glad to see ya.
That's right. Tip your waiter.
That's right.
No, yeah, I definitely understand the sentiment of it's been a long week, Not that I can probably get into too many details on the show, but I recently maybe uncovered fraud.
Dun dun dun.
By someone who does business with the place of my employ. And so that was a part of my week, which was pretty exciting, but also tedious. Paper trails are boring. The results are fascinating, but the actual hard legwork of going through a paper trail is tedious.
That's why you montage it.
We need a montage.
That's right. You just need to real life montage that moment.
That's right. Mm-hmm. I think that's the whole idea of the somnambulist episode of Rick and Morty.
The subambulist?
The somnambulist, yeah, the night people.
Oh, yes.
Someone to fill in the gaps for you,
Oh, gosh.
So you get to do the fun parts.
So you can just montage through life
Yeah.
with rock hard abs.
That's right. At least they jumped off of referring to abs as having cum gutters, as they did so thoroughly in the prior season.
Oh, God.
You had forgotten all about that, hadn't you?
Yes, entirely.
You're welcome.
Anywho.
I think maybe I'll put that in the episode description.
Anywho.
And we talk about cum gutters.
Stop saying it. Jesus.
But moving on, it is, of course, like we said, October, and we are going to be doing horror all month long. I haven't set out the newsletter quite yet. That'll probably come this weekend, so if you haven't signed up yet, go and sign up. But for today's episode, without giving away too much of what we're doing, I decided that we would go and discuss a film from a director who's very hot right now. Ty West, the director of Pearl and X, two very much talked about films right now. And so it seemed appropriate to go back and sort of dip into one of his earlier films. Because honestly, I had never seen any of his films before X. That's not exactly true. Because he had written, I think, something that I am familiar with. No. Okay, so I knew that he was involved with VHS, but I hadn't seen it. But I thought that it sounded like a good idea. It's an interesting movie. One element about the film that I thought would be fun to talk about before we get too deep into it is that the film does the Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing of presenting itself as a true story.
Yes.
You know, it has that little text at the opening that's like, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, there were demonic cults and abuses by those cults, and this is why you've never heard about them.
Yeah. Yeah. That is correct.
And so I wanted to ask you, what's your opinion on fictional films that use the moniker of, you know, it's a true story? Or even, honestly, what's your opinion on inspired by a true story films that get very liberal with that idea?
I think that I guess I would prefer the liberal version of history than the actual fabrication of the truth. Because I know for a fact that there is somebody out there that doesn't realize that it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be harmful.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of the context of the film itself, you know, it could be, you know, us talking about Fargo. You know, Fargo's great, but also, like, if you really think that these things are real, you know, I guess there could be worse things that are, like, you know, very magical and things like that. But, like, you know, it's very blunt. It's almost dry. But I still think I think that's worse than, like, maybe people thinking that the musical Hamilton is an exact recreation of the life of Alexander Hamilton. You know, I think that's because at least there's some truth in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a liberal brush of history instead of, like, telling somebody that this is real and it not being. Because also then where's the line? You know, it's already confusing enough out here, you know, with the concept that the world could possibly be round. You know, it's hard. It's hard out here.
I think you raise a really interesting point. I think that I think I completely get where you're at. I also think that you know, to, of course, play a sort of devil's advocate opinion, you definitely, I think, can also have things that sometimes play it so liberal that you end up distorting it further from the truth than if you had just done a sort of homage. You know, like to you know, Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, you know, which definitely downplayed certain elements of who Freddie Mercury was as a person.
No, yeah, but I think that also still opens the door for somebody to go, I want to learn more about this person. They can then go down the rabbit hole, you know, like how we used to with hard books and things.
Well, and, you know, to also go to your point very specifically of it distorts the truth, there were a lot of people that were convinced, you know, in this sort of urban legend that persisted more at the time, that the events of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie were real.
Yes!
You know, that, like, it was based on a true story. There were even some people who thought that it was a snuff film. And so, to your point, very precisely, you know, you do absolutely have that. Once you open the door of what's true, what's not, it becomes very wibbly.
And, like, especially with something like, you know, Chainsaw Massacre, you know, you're gonna have somebody go out there who is not well, who's gonna go, oh, well, if this person could do it, then I can too.
You know, or you're gonna have people who go out looking for some sort of place that doesn't exist and find trouble of a different varietal.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, what is the I think it's a little bit of manipulation as well, because it's like, oh, if you're not in the know,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, we understand that, like, it's not. It's not real. It's made in the sense that it's like, wow, that was a real yarn, almost kind of way of saying it. Like it's a true story.
The joke has to be made, I think, or the intent has to be made. I think this is maybe the borderline, right? Because no one has ever really questioned Fargo, which is interesting. I think you almost have to make it obvious on a certain level that it's not. And I know that certain things obviously, have done that to a certain degree, but like no one's ever thought that The Office was a real documentary.
I'm sure. I am absolutely
I'm sure that someone has.
That somebody somewhere thinks that The Office is a real place.
Mm-hmm.
That Michael Scott is a real person. That they really do that. And this is some old archive footage from the early 2000s. I'm sure somebody out there is like, yep.
It's real.
It checks all of my boxes.
It's adding up.
Like I'm sure. And like obviously, there are more extreme versions of it, like The Office, that like, for the most part, I think you're good.
Yeah. And so I think that it definitely is that that question of presentation. I think the reason that obviously also, of course, not to get too far into it, but the movie that we're dealing with goes down a certain bend that obviously removes it from the realm of ever possibly being real. Whereas, like, murderous cannibals aren't impossible.
No.
Especially at the time that movie came out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a hot button topic,
Mm-hmm.
This is something that could possibly be going on.
Mm-hmm.
I completely understand that. This movie came out in what, 2000?
2009.
Okay, so it's just putting on like a
veneer, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That also helps as well to like pull it away from it being like a reality thing, cuz like obviously, something like this is fiction. Like nothing like this is that we live too into technology nowadays to not have heard of this event happening in time and hitting someone somewhere.
Well, and it's not to get too far again into it, but it also definitely it definitely presents itself in a way that, like, to your point, there is just no way for this kind of event to occur and it not to garner some attention.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with our true crime obsessed era, of media consumption.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I guess what's your opinion
on whether or not it's harmful or not?
Yeah.
I think that it really does vary. I think it really does depend. Cloverfield is, shaky cam, first person perspective film that I really enjoy. Obviously fake, totally fine.
You're telling me that big monster?
That's right. New York City. You can still visit it. It hasn't been nuked. It hasn't been carpet bombed, to hell and back. There aren't weird parasites in the... Well, I mean, there are weird parasites in the subway, but that's a different story.
Uh-huh.
They're not alien. No,
not in that sense.
And so, they're insects or rodents.
That's right. They're like the kudzu.
And so... But I think that also, to your point, the label of truth, especially today, is for some people, such a flexible term that it does get very questionable the moment that you start to present, anything really as true to certain people. It's going to instill a question about
because I think
reality
that
for some.
I think that once you start to do stuff that documentaries do, you start to put labels on things. You're like, you're telling me as a viewer, like right there, this is a true story.
I was about to bring up, have you ever seen The Fourth Kind?
No.
Okay, it's a fake, it's a documentary alien horror movie, but it's a fake movie. It's a fake documentary, it's a mockumentary. And it stars Mila Jovovich as like the narrator.
Oh,
and they're
interesting.
like dramatic recreations of certain incidents in this story of alien encounters.
It's like the thing about mermaids that the Discovery likes to put on.
And it's presented as a true story of alien encounters that escalated all the way to this point of, did someone get abducted and blah, blah, blah. And, when you first watch it, if you literally don't know anything about the movie, then yeah, this is all really wild shit, You don't know that it's not a real documentary. It's presenting itself like a documentary.
Let's say that it's back in 2003 and you're watching this thing because it came on TV and there's no description of what this thing is. You're just, it's just on the Sci-Fi Channel and you're just watching it. Who's to say?
Yeah. Blair Witch, back in the day where there were definitely, I promise you that there were definitely people that thought that the Blair Witch footage was real.
Yes, I'm sure. But that's again, we're touching on fine line here.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, going back to my sentiment about, like, The Office and Fargo and Cloverfield. I think that you have to be delicate with that presentation, and you have to, in some way, I think, very boldly cross that line that makes it very obvious. And I think that, like, The Office does it by being so parody to the point of extreme,
No, yeah, and I guess that's kind of how I feel about Fargo. It's so mundane.
It's so mundane, but also then so spectacular at the same time that there's no way it's true.
No, exactly. Like, what on earth is happening with the one with was it a patch? It was...
The Stamp?
The Stamp, that's what it was. That's
Season 3.
Yes. Ridiculous.
Well, and
with
season
obviously
3,
Ewan McGregor.
Season 3 also, of course, does lay out part of the thesis of Fargo with the David Thewlis character, where he sits down and he monologues, and the way that he starts his monologue is, this is a true story. Mm-hmm. And nothing that man says is the truth.
No, but he's again saying it in this like tongue-in-cheek way.
And just like the show is, and so his entire point with that story is sort of the same entire point of when Fargo starts with, this is a true story.
Yes.
It's true. It's a story.
That's right. It's a tale. It's a yarn.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. A tall tale.
Exactly.
And it takes place in Paul Bunyan territory.
Well, it's practically as realism.
No, but I thought that would be a really interesting place to sort of start our discussion before we jumped into the film itself. Especially because, like, real life horror, found footage horror, is so popular a sort of context that I thought that it would be an interesting place to start our discussion on The House of the Devil by Ty West. And without any further ado, we'll go ahead and jump right on into this bad boy.
Yes, let's.
House of the Devil, like we said, came out in 2009. It's rated R. It's an hour and 35 minutes. It is written, directed, and edited by Ty West. The premise is, in 1983, financially struggling college student Samantha Hughes takes a strange babysitting job that coincides with a full lunar eclipse. She slowly realizes her clients harbor a terrifying secret, putting her life in mortal danger. It stars Jocelyn Donahue as Samantha, the fantastic Tom Noonan as Mr. Ullman, Greta Gerwig as Megan, Mary Woronov as Mrs. Ullman, and A.J. Bowen as Victor Ullman. And I'll go ahead and pass it off to you, dear. What did you think of The House of the Devil?
I think this movie had a lot of really good suspenseful moments for me. It's definitely not like, it kind of reminded me, I guess, of like Barbarian a lot, where honestly almost almost identically a little bit in a way. It's like, it's this young woman that gets put into a situation that makes her uncomfortable, but she goes along with it, and all the, her internal red flags are going off the entire time, but like, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And things keep getting brushed off until things escalate so much out of nowhere. And it was definitely a fun ride. I think that I liked this movie up until a point. I think that the ending for me was not, I guess, where I was expecting it to go after seeing other Ty West films of like the now. I thought that it was going to have like a flashier, bigger budget ending, and boy, was I wrong. And not saying that like the ending was bad, but I think that there were scarier moments leading up to it. And then once we finally got to the payoff of the end, I think that that's where like all the scary like got taken away from me. When she's like when she's getting out of the house.
No, absolutely. No, I completely agree with that sentiment. I liked this movie very, very much. I was fascinated to see, to your point, how it really did tie into some of those same things. But it's a common trope in horror, right? The strange house that you somehow find yourself in, with the strange resident.
No, for sure.
And so it was interesting to really see that, but that's also sort of the same idea explored in X. And so what I really, really enjoyed about The House of the Devil was seeing the little tiny strange seeds
that would lead
to, X and Pearl. It was really fascinating to see where certain ideas were germinating inside of this artist, over 10 years ago, almost 15. Mm-hmm. And so it was really, really fascinating, I thought, to see the strange old woman, the strange family unit.
These like Addams Family people, almost,
Yeah. But also to see that he was openly wearing, even back with The House of the Devil, his inspirations on his sleeve. It's very obviously inspired by the Texas Chainsaw, on the certain level. It's, again, the isolated house, the strange family unit, the weird denouement, sort of around this central ceremony moment, mm-hmm. whether it be a feast or, what we have at the finale of The House of the Devil. And so I think that it's really interesting to see the ways that he is so... But you also get that again in like X and Pearl. With Pearl, the movie ends at the dinner table. Mm-hmm. And there's this... All throughout X, there are these interactions at the dinner table. And so it's really, really interesting to see the places that he's drawn to as a creative. Food is something that he's really, really drawn to. It's so fascinating. Basements and attics. Hidden away places. In this, she goes to the attic and finds what she shouldn't. In X, she goes into the basement and finds what she shouldn't. And it's
funny that she's literally the exact same type as the girl from X, the ingenue.
Mm-hmm. Both of them, both Mia Goth and our I Want to Do It.
Yeah,
girl.
exactly.
They're both sort of the same type.
Exactly. It's this infatuation with brunettes.
And these I don't give a shit. Blondes. You know,
That's
Greta
right, that are
Gerwig
really-
and the Brittany Snow character.
Yeah, really Spitfire.
And so it was really fascinating, and that was, for me, I think, one of the most engaging things about it. Not that the movie was bad at all, but for me, that was definitely one of the most, like, that I kept on going back to with it. Overall, it was so tense and so taut, and I was so on the edge of our seat, and then we paused very briefly at about, like, the 55-minute mark, and it's an hour 35, so you're really near the end at that point. And I suddenly realized, I was like, holy shit, this man has kept me on my toes for 40 minutes now, and nothing's happened. You know? And I was like, what's going to continue to happen? And so to your point, then, the finale for me, one, almost felt rushed. Two, there were parts of it that weren't satisfying. I almost wanted the... I'll get to that in a little bit. There are parts of it that just weren't satisfying, and it almost felt a little bit rushed. Three, I also didn't feel like it really tied back into the first idea that it contacted with in the opening text, where we establish that this is based on a true story or inspired by some sort of truth of reality, of demonic cults, but also the cover-up of them, and why we don't hear about them.
No,
And
I
felt
get
like,
that.
to that extent, where's the second part of that? You definitely gave me part A. Where is part B of what you told me about? Because this seems like something that people would know of. You know, going back to the kind of, like, Texas Chainsaw was a real thing. People would know about that very directly. You know, Leatherface wouldn't just be some sort of thing that you only heard about in the movies. We would know his name. And this kind of, again, was sort of in that same vein, and I know that it's obviously fiction, but, like, you need to, if you're going to present this idea that it was successfully also covered up, because of, I guess, law enforcement or something, not wanting cult madness or something, I don't know.
No. It wasn't the law, it was the university. They covered that up toot sweet.
You know what? Maybe.
They said...
But that would be an interesting angle. You know? And so I wish that I had had some better sense of how it also related to that element of it.
No, I get that. I agree. I do think that the third act is rushed. It's literally the
I'm on
moment.
pins and needles.
It was literally the moment that, like, I guess, spoilers ahead.
Yeah, we can jump into spoilers from here.
Cool. Like the moment that we get to her finally going up to the attic door, and we, like, see the fingers go around the door, and then she passes out, and I was like, what? I was so mad. I guess I assume that they, like, drugged the pizza.
That was my guess as well.
But that was so cheap.
Yeah.
You know, it cheapened it so much, because the next thing we're at the ceremony.
Okay.
There's no prep or anything. We're just boop, we're there. And it's just...
Before we get too deep into spoilers, because I still think we're actually still in okay territory, I just want to do one thing real quickly for the recording's sake. We will go and time code where we stop having spoilers, you know, and like the review is, you can hear the rating. We will have that in there.
Yes, but are we going to have this part?
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
So I think that you're completely right. I think that the drugging of the pizza cheapens it. I think that I think a lot of it ends up getting pretty cheapened in general at the third act. The magic escape. from her circumstance, for me, was one of those moments where I was like, this is bad.
Oh my gosh, where she just, like, gets out of her ties, just like, shook her hand a few times and was like, oh, I'm out.
I was like, this is bad. You know,
and like it made the parts of the movie that I really enjoyed feel like I was like, well, what was the point of like all of that other stuff then? You know, like what were we leaning towards with this? You know, I was just so confused. No, I mean, like absolutely. I guess they needed the. What was going on in that other room?
Okay, so my general thought is that, okay, it's not made abundantly clear what happens. Our main character sees that in one of the rooms there has been some sort of other versions of the sacrifice happening. I think that those were either practice runs or other attempts at whatever this ceremony was supposed to be that didn't work. And I'm thinking that maybe this was their last best chance at getting it done.
I feel like for me, this movie needed like 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to, like, the dude at the end, you know, she's like fought her way out of the house and stuff. And like, I really just wanted to hear what he had to say. I wanted to understand what they were doing, and like I guess that was the thing that wasn't really satisfying for me as a viewer, was just like we never really get that closure. Like it just happens, and you don't really understand why they were even a part of this cult. Like what drew them started. To it? Yeah, you know.
And I think the other thing for me that really was very complicated about it on a certain level that made me frustrated as a viewer was that I found her as a protagonist frustrating at times, because there were ultimately moments where she just seemed so distracted because she was doing things, you know, that felt more plot motivated than person motivated. She breaks this vase. She panics. She's trying to clean this vase. And in the middle of trying to clean this vase, she looks at this door and goes, you know what? It's time for me to open this door and poke around and see what's in here. Why? It's completely against the urgency and the motivation of what that moment was. And so for me as a protagonist, she did things that were the classic frustrating horror movie character things that make me go, you are driving me insane. You are actively heading toward danger.
I mean, I get that. She doesn't have any common sense. She doesn't have any boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because at the end of the day, I would also, I guess, understand her snooping around these people's house more if it wasn't like she was supposed to be watching grandma and what she was actually supposed to be watching a baby.
Yeah.
You know, because then there shouldn't be any other, like, adult person bumping around in this house. You know what I mean? And, like, I think that it's weirder when, like, I guess the person is, like, aware enough to tell on you.
Yeah.
That you're, like, snooping through this person's house. Like, I just think that that's, like, to your point, an odd motivation. Like, why on earth are you
You're nervous
around?
Enough that you broke something.
Well, I mean, she was dancing, listening to music, and bumped into this urn that was on an easel because they're that rich.
And so, like, you know, your motivation should definitely be finishing cleaning that mess.
Yeah.
Not stopping in the middle of maybe being caught on the second floor.
And I mean, like, I guess she assumes that, like, grandma is not going to come down and the people aren't coming, the couple isn't coming home for a few more hours at this rate. So, like, you know, I guess in theory she could have stopped this task being like, I've got time to snoop around and then come back to this.
Yeah.
But, like, again, I just think it's weird because especially they, like, very specifically are like, grandma is, like, very well and able woman, you know, but she likes her privacy, don't mind her, blah, blah, blah. Like, if it would be one thing, I guess, if grandma had dementia.
Yeah, because honestly, like, if you looked at me and were like, she's totally well and able-bodied, I'd be like, can I at least still meet her? So that way, if we bump into each other, we're not, like, startled by each other?
No, yeah,
You know?
I mean, like, honestly, at the end of the day, the entire situation was supposed to feel creepy, and I think that that's the part of the movie for me that really, really works.
Yeah, of course. It
Yeah.
is. That aspect of it does work. And
I
you
also
dread
loved this,
her
like-
making all of these bad decisions because the tension is effective.
No, yeah, and I loved this, like, whole third element thrown out with the guy in the woods, you know, that we find out is the son.
Yeah.
You know, but, like, we don't know that at the time that we see him. We just see some dude outside.
And I guess also going back to questions about, like, the lead-in and the payoff, you tell me it's a demonic cult. No offense. I'm expecting 10 people.
It's literally a family unit of 4 people with a questionable relationship with I don't think that was actually grandma.
No. If that was grandma, wow.
No, I think that was just what they were saying. I think, okay, so what I was thinking is this is another child.
Of theirs?
Of theirs, yes. That this child had some kind of, like, deformity or whatever.
I thought that it was definitely an older woman.
Oh, see, I was thinking it was just some kid who had some kind of, like, condition that they've hid up in this attic.
I was thinking that it was maybe like some sort of weird witch, great grandmother Baba Yaga figure that, like, people cart around and, like, you get sort of bequeathed grandma, you know, and that was sort of what my thought was.
No, I guess I was thinking that this person could be like the dude from Mask.
Oh, okay. Copy.
You know, whereas, like, it's kind of hard to tell because also, like, the only time we actually see them is in the cult outfit.
Yeah, and we never really hear her speak.
Or anything, so it's, like, all just, like, this visual, you know. So I guess, you know, I was like, it could be.
No, I totally see where you're at with that. I definitely understand your train of thought. I just definitely thought that I honestly thought that she was older than just being grandma. I thought that she was like I said, some sort of old witch figure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like that as well. You know, it's really not very clear, I guess, in the
This
in the
movie
film.
lets you have a lot of nebulous area,
which I totally enjoy. I honestly, like, I don't mind her. I loved the tension building of her exploring the house because, like, the entire time I was banging my head against the wall being like, stop doing this.
Don't do
you know,
it.
I felt like, oh gosh, what's her name from the Scream franchise? Being like, you know, I ain't going in there. You know, I was like, you know, screaming at the screen.
Oh, you mean Scary Movie?
Is it Scary Movie? It is Scary Movie. That's right. Oh, gosh, I do that all the time. Yes, Scary Movie. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
No, I completely get where you're at with that.
I loved The Friend. I wanted more of The Friend.
Yeah, Greta Gerwig is great.
She was fantastic. She had me, and, like, whew, boy, that was one of the scariest moments.
That was one of the most shocking and also, to your point, effectively creepy moments of the entire movie for me.
Yeah, because it made my skin crawl.
It was so real.
Yeah, but then we went. I had forgotten all about the beginning part, honestly, about them being like, it's about demonic cults. Like, I was on this ride. I was like, yeah, awesome. And then we got back to it, and I was like, oh yeah. You know what movie does cult better than this movie? Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, also, I think for me, the other big issue is just that, and this is, for me, you know, personally as a viewer, is just that, like, beyond the obvious physical things that are creepy or scary or stomach churning, and beyond some of the natural tension building that you can do, generally speaking, for me, demonic possession movies, demonic birth movies, demonic whatever movies, almost never pay off in a way that sells me.
I think that's fair.
And that's
'cause you've never seen The Exorcist.
No. But I've seen enough sort of possession and exorcism stuff that, like, I know for a fact that, generally speaking, none of it really...
No, I mean, I get that.
crosses that line for me of, like, and this is the finale that made me go, and I won't sleep at night. And I think that's also just because, generally speaking, I also don't necessarily have
a fear of God.
A fear of hell or any
No,
of
I
that.
get that. I get that. I think that that's also where I sit. Like, you know, I think that ghost movies and ghost stories are, like...
more likely to creep me.
Yeah, totally, than something that's, like, very specifically steeped in religion, especially, like, Christianity. Like, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, to your point, like, I don't...
Be like, if they did a movie where it was like, you're being haunted by Thor, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Being haunted by Thor. All I thought of was Chris Hemsworth, and I was like, I guess that's not that bad. If anything, he'll just annoy the hell out of me.
That's why it'll be worse. It'll be like the first act of Paranormal Activity, where the ghost is just inconsiderate, you know?
Oh, yes.
Leaving cabinets open and shit, and stealing knives and fuck, you know?
No. Stop it. He's gonna want to hang out. What on earth are you talking about? Thor is going to want to actively hang out, you know, because I'm, again, still thinking of Chris Hemsworth.
No, that's true.
Not thinking of the actual god of thunder.
I was thinking of him trying to be a spooky ghost.
Oh, see, I was thinking of him forgetting that he was a ghost.
Ah, I see. Two different directions.
Two worlds, one family.
That's right. Trust your heart.
Oh, stop it.
But no, overall, beyond that other big issue, because, like, another, like, found footage, it's real movie was The Last Exorcism. And that one didn't do it for me either. And that's another demonic possession. It's got a baby in it, you know, kind of thing.
It's got a baby in it. That's so funny. Oh gosh, I guess for me, I was really curious of where this story was going to go. Because I felt like we left off at a really hard, like, to be continued. And then, like, I know that that's not going to happen, you know, but I also know, I was like, maybe there is a sequel out there, knowing the Ty West that we have now.
Maybe he's going to wait 5 years from now, you know, and
slap it on out there. I'd be down. I'd watch it.
Yeah, you know, it'll be about, like, the kid grown up.
But we're gonna get the beginning part where it's like her giving birth, screaming in agony. You know,
it'll be almost
very
like,
Tatane.
I was gonna say it'll almost be like Ty West does, like The Omen, you know, or something like that.
Speculating.
I'd watch it.
Hell yeah, I'd totally watch it. You know, with I really enjoy where the seeds of his career have you know, bore fruit, you know, and I think I really respect this movie for that, and I think that this movie is good. I think that this is, I guess for me, it's like, you know, when you're like a really good film student. Like, this was like really good, solid A+ film student for me. You know, like, I understand your budget isn't all the way there. You know, you can't do all this stuff. You got to cheat a little bit. And, like, maybe you procrastinated a bit at the end. You know?
Or you just literally didn't have the ability to do any of what you wanted, so you just had to, you know, full-blown compromise to this, whatever it is.
No, yeah, exactly. But that doesn't mean that it's not good.
No, not at all. It's a great movie.
And I think
for the most part.
And I think that for somebody, this movie is sufficiently very creepy.
Oh yeah, for someone, this is like a top-notch horror film, all the way through, top to finish, start to end. You know.
I mean, they even have in the photo, the ad for it, the poster, it's a house on fire, and we never get to see that house burn down.
No. No.
Anything. Maybe a tunnel to hell? Maybe, like, there was a literal pit open to hell?
Mm.
We
don't get to see it.
It opens up kind of like Poltergeist, at the end.
Yeah,
where it takes the house. Yeah, these are all options. These are all options that need money, though.
Oh, yeah. So, if you had to give The House of the Devil a rating out of 5, what would you give it?
I think I'm going to give House of the Devil a 4. I think that it just, for me, it doesn't stick the landing.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a really good movie, and I think that it's definitely, I would rewatch this movie in a heartbeat. But I do think that, like, maybe, if you wanted to remake this movie, I'd be down.
I'll go with a... I think I'm gonna go with a... I'll go with a 4 as well.
Okay.
I wrestled over it, but I'm ultimately gonna go with the 4.
Like, and in the North American school system, a 4 is a B.
Well,
I guess a 4 is technically an A, but I'm thinking on a 5-point scale.
I think it squeaked out. If only just because literally for the first 55 minutes it was breathless.
Yeah. Like, I think that the last, like, 10 minutes of this movie, I was like, oh.
I needed some figuring. But for the most part, very satisfying.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
The only things that I really, I guess, wanted to bring up, beyond, of course, what we've been watching, was, the Super Mario Bros. Trailer came out.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, I'll talk for a little bit first on this one.
Fantastic.
What a strong opening to a trailer. I was so hooked in. I was so excited. It was going so well for that trailer. It was funny. The visuals were great. Jack Black as Bowser was awesome.
Well, Jack Black.
And then literally Mario showed up and I remembered suddenly like a sack of fucking potatoes hitting me over the head that I was about to hear Chris Pratt speak. And the air came out of that trailer for me, and it never ever again reached that pinnacle of where we started at.
It's funny because it's true. It's absolutely hysterical because it is 100% true. He took all of the air out of that entire film for me. That trailer was a flattened tire the moment that he came out with the spikes of doom that he is.
The movie got Kirby'd.
Yeah.
And so it ultimately for me as a trailer was not necessarily the most successful in selling me, especially on Chris Pratt as Mario.
Oh God, no. I think that this was like, what if it's like, one of those anti-movies where it's actually about the villain the entire time? Like, I could have, it's like maybe Deadpool, so that way Jack Black can be our lead, and Chris Pratt can just be a side character, like Wreck-It Ralph and the
Fix-It Felix.
Fix-It Felix. Thank you. I was like, and Junior. I was gonna say the Bob the Builder one.
That's right.
It's exactly who he is.
The only other thing that came out that I wanted to touch on was also the Velma trailer that dropped, or the little Velma, I guess, teaser that dropped. It looked fine. I'll give it a chance. I'm interested enough.
I'm interested enough is a bold statement. Fantastic.
You'll have to see. I know that you hold Scooby-Doo dear.
I do. It's a franchise that I have watched every single terrible, awful version of a Scooby-Doo remake, and I'll watch this one too. But that doesn't mean that I don't have opinions about them, and that I haven't created a hierarchy in my own mind of which ones are actually good versus. I think that's how people look at like the Jason franchise. They're like, yeah, a lot of it's garbage, but there are some gems. And I don't know what, I guess, Mindy has to say about this character that's going to change it, that couldn't have just been somebody else, a different character entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you bringing to Velma that really changes the landscape of this character at all?
Mm-hmm.
That couldn't have just been used, like, Mindy, you're famous enough that you could have made a completely, entirely, like, Mindy cartoon show where you're everybody hates Chris as yourself, but a cartoon, and people would have gobbled it down, I feel like that's exactly what this is, though. Like, I feel like this is some version of, like, her being like, hey, I identify with Velma, and therefore I'm gonna make myself into her and somehow weave my own narrative into this thing that already exists.
Well, I mean, if you can do it.
I mean, yeah, but, like, what's the point in that, Gosh, make new things, guys. We don't need another bad Scooby-Doo remake, guys. We don't. We just had Scoob. We don't need this.
Exclamation point.
Scoob, exclamation point indeed. Where it was a prequel, and we already had a pup named Scooby-Doo. We were done.
Never.
We figured it out.
No.
Oh, my gosh. And that show wasn't even that great. That we keep downgrading.
Hey, it was great. It had red herring.
It did have red herring. That was the most solid joke of children's programming.
But beyond Velma and the Super Mario Bros, as far as what we've been watching, we've been watching the Halloween franchise. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're actually going to go and see Halloween, the original one, in theaters tomorrow night. I guess tonight, if you're listening to this on Friday.
Yes.
It's tomorrow night for us recording. But I'm pretty pumped to see it in theaters. That'll be a fun time.
Yes, I'm very excited to see the original up on the big screen.
Yeah.
It's excuse to go to the theater. I know that they're doing that as a ploy, but gosh darn it,
it didn't work.
No, honestly, it's like them playing Jaws during summertime. Like, of course I'm coming.
No, absolutely.
You rang my exact bell. We've also been doing the Texas Chainsaw movies as well.
We finished the Child's Play franchise.
Mm-hmm. We actually had a very busy watching weekend recently. Pretty impressed by how many we cranked out in a few days. We haven't watched movies like this in a minute.
Yeah. And we've got a lot more Texas Chainsaw to go.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I'm hyped for more Texas Chainsaw. I think more than I was expecting to be.
And it's going really well so far. Getting ready for the slasher extravaganza at the end of the month. We've got more coming for y'all. Get ready for that. Sign up for the newsletter to find out what else we're doing this month and to get links to everything that we did last month for Hispanic Heritage.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, it's still technically happening.
Yeah. Guess what? It's a part of next week's episode.
It's a secret between you and us, I'm
not going to tell you what the movie is. You have to go and subscribe to the newsletter to find out what it is before next week.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's right.
You gotta do homework.
Baited with anticipation.
Fantastic. Can you hold out for a whole extra week, or are you gonna just, sign up for the newsletter? Do it now.
It's must-know information. You gots to be in the know. Everyone's talking about it at the water cooler.
That's right. The Film Buds newsletter is the talk
infectious.
Of everybody's water cooler.
That's right. And so delusions of grandeur, everyone, are wonderful things.
Oh yeah, it keeps us young.
That's right. Or is that just a delusion? And so,
Here we go.
that's just about all that I have for y'all. Dear, do you have anything else that you would like to say to the listeners?
No, I think that we've sufficiently, I guess, bored them to tears at this moment. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I hope that you guys enjoyed the show. Come back next week as always. Listen to our plethora of other ones. We're in like the 200s right now in this episode.
Yeah, 241.
So like, if you just can't stop listening to Film Buds, guess what? You could listen to, almost an entire year's worth of other Film Buds while waiting for the new one to come out next week. So look at you, aren't you the luckiest duck of all?
Yeah, that's right. You've got so much Film Buds, I literally don't think that you could listen to all of it between now and next week. You know what? Try. Knock yourself out. It's your life.
Listen to it all at once.
That's right. Put it all on 5 different playing areas.
Yeah, that's really the only way to do it at that point. We got to get strategic. But yeah, really absorb it. Absorb it in the best way possible for you.
Almost like osmosis, it'll just be through your skin.
Fantastic.
Thank you guys as always for listening. Happy Halloween, you dirty, filthy sons of bitches.
I think that you're quoting actually the Christmas movie. You filthy animal.
That's fine. And come back next week. We always enjoy talking to you guys, and it's going to be a really exciting Halloween season. Bye.